Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of our class. This will be our halfway through our class mark already, which is kind of crazy. So this week we are actually going to be focusing on the legal rights of juveniles that you will be, there's 2 slideshows that are in the folder talking about some of the legal specifications that are a little bit more applicable to juveniles along the lines of status offenses, some of the court cases, landmark court cases that were decided with the Supreme Court in terms of juvenile justice reform, and then some specifications around how juveniles can waive rights. And then you'll be looking a little bit at how juveniles and the police have a relationship, some of the issues with police training that has come up, probably in the last decade or two, certainly more recently, in dealing with juveniles. And sometimes there are some different factors that need to be considered when you are talking to a juvenile, interrogating a juvenile, detaining a juvenile, arresting a juvenile. And so those are some things to take a peek at. Some of the issues that officers also deal with having to do with juvenile gangs and some of the gang units that are in place in police departments across the country. So things like that. Your discussion this week is actually going to be on violence escalation, which is really talking about or discussing the relationship between juveniles and the police officers and how sometimes there can be an escalation in some of these interactions and some of your thoughts on that. Your case study this week, and this is where actually the bulk of your reading is going to come in. Your case study this week is actually going to be about a recent case that happened in January of this year in Virginia when a 6-year-old brought a gun to school and shot his teacher. And so that was a case that made national news. Some of you may have heard about it. And so I actually put, I think, 5 different articles into the folder this week under the assignment itself. So there are a couple of news articles from some news agencies, ABC, NBC, and then there are some videos that are attached to it that are short videos, interviews. You can see the parent of the 6-year-old speaking out. You can actually see one has the interview with the teacher who is speaking out, who was shot, who survived, thankfully. And some of the issues with this case that we have a very, very young offender, a 6-year-old. There are about half the states in the United States do not have a limit or a threshold for prosecuting juveniles, including the state of Virginia where this happened. And so they can prosecute juveniles at any age. It doesn't mean it always happens that way, but there's no minimum statute for that. There are Massachusetts is actually one of the states where we will not prosecute anyone under the age of 12. The other half of our states in the country have different, some are 9, 10, 11, 12. The oldest one is 13. Some will say they won't do it under 14. It really can be very case specific sometimes. If there's a really egregious case in a state that says they won't prosecute 10-year-olds, but a 10-year-old commits a crime, or pretty hideous crime, that is possible that it will happen. So I want you to think about this 6-year-old. This is somebody who could be in kindergarten or first grade. If you have a 6-year-old in your life, or, work with kids that age, and some of the developmental issues that are going on, some of the intellectual issues that are going on, the social emotional space for these kids, looking at the facts of this case and what this child allegedly did, listening to his family. Well, thinking about whether you would charge him or not, what you would charge him with. Should he be in the juvenile justice system? Could he possibly be in the adult justice system? Which sounds absurd, but this is a fairly serious crime. Could have been much more serious too if the incident didn't play out the way it did and other people were not injured in the course of this shooting. So your assignment is to read these articles and then look at some of the videos that are embedded in these articles and then answer some questions. I put a few questions in your assignment this week to really try to analyze the specifics of this case, looking at the responsibility of the parents, the family, where they got the gun. Was the gun legally obtained? Was it locked up properly? We do have rules and laws around that when we are a responsible, safe gun owner. And also thinking about the school, and there's some issues that have been brought up about the school and the school district, and warnings about this individual, this child, and some of his needs as well. So I want you to think about all the components of this case and sort of analyze it, trying to answer these questions, and, make it to a kind of an essay style response for your assignment this week. So please let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.